3 weeks ago in Trinidad, a cricket stadium hosted its very first test match. That's not unusual on its own. On July 25, 2026, the Brian Lara Cricket Academy in Tarouba welcomed international test cricket for the very first time, nearly 2 decades after the man himself played his last innings for the West Indies. West Indies beat Pakistan there by 90 runs, and somewhere in that ground, a stadium built entirely in his honor. While he was still alive to watch it happen, sat a man most casual fans only think of as a name in a record book. Here's what that record book actually says. Brian Lara is the only man in history to hold the record for the highest individual score in Test cricket twice. He lost it once, and then he simply took it back. Today, decades after his final innings, public estimates put his fortune at around $60 million. This is the story of the stadium that just made history in his name, the foundation built in memory of his parents, and the fortune that everyone estimates, but nobody can actually prove. Brian Charles Lara was born on May 2, 1969, in Santa Cruz, a small village in Trinidad and Tobago, the 5th of 11 children. Cricket found him early. By age 6, he was already training at the Harvard Coaching Clinic, a well-known cricket academy on the island. At just 14 years old, he scored 745 runs in a single schoolboys league season, at an average north of 126, numbers that would be remarkable for a grown professional, let alone a teenager. In 1987, still a teenager himself, he broke a first-class youth batting record that had been set by fellow West Indian great Carl Hooper only a year earlier. The signs were all there long before the rest of the cricket world caught on. He made his international debut for the West Indies in 1990 at 21 years old. For a few years, he was talented, promising, exciting, but not yet a household name. He was quick, elegant at the crease, with a backlift that commentators still describe as one of the most technically beautiful in the sport's history. What separated him from other gifted young batsmen of his generation wasn't just style. It was an appetite for enormous scores. Once he got in, bowlers around the world learned that dismissing him early was the only real chance they had, because once Lara found his rhythm, he rarely gave it back cheaply. That changed permanently in 1994, one of the most extraordinary calendar years any batsman has ever produced. In April of that year, against England in Antigua, Lara scored 375, breaking the record for the highest individual score in Test cricket history, a mark that had stood since the 1950s. Just weeks later, playing for Warwickshire against Durham in county cricket, he went even further, scoring 5 home run runs, not out. Still today, the highest individual score ever recorded in first-class cricket at any level, anywhere in the world. 2 of the biggest batting records in the sport, broken within the same year by the same 25-year-old man from a small village in Trinidad. For a brief stretch, Lara wasn't just one of the best batsmen alive. He held the ceiling for what a single innings could be. At every level, the sport is played. A decade later, in 2004, Lara's test record was broken. Australian opener Matthew Hayden scored 380 against Zimbabwe, finally passing the mark Lara had held for 10 years. Most players who lose a record like that never get the chance to respond. Brian Lara did, just months later against England in Antigua, on the very same ground where he'd first set the record. He scored 400 not out, reclaiming it. To this day, he remains the only batsman in the history of Test cricket to hold that specific record twice. Across his international career, which ran from 1990 to 2007, Lara scored over 22,000 runs for the West Indies across all formats. He captained the side during a difficult period for West Indies cricket, one where the team's overall results rarely matched the individual brilliance he brought to the crease almost every time he walked out. He was named Wisden's leading cricketer in the world on multiple occasions. In 2012, he was inducted into the ICC Cricket Hall of Fame, cementing his place among the small handful of players considered the very best the sport has ever produced. When he finally retired in 2007, at the Cricket World Cup being held in the Caribbean itself, it closed out a 17-year international career, defined by individual brilliance that, at times, carried an entire era of West Indies cricket almost single-handedly. Now here's where his story actually gets interesting, because, unlike a lot of retired athletes, Lara didn't simply fade into commentary boxes and nostalgia tours. And this July, that became visible in the most literal way possible: the Brian Lara Cricket Academy and Stadium. In Tarouba, in the south of the island, is a 15,000-seat venue built as part of a wider sports complex the government invested roughly $850 million into. It's important to be precise here. This isn't Lara's personal business venture. It's a public facility built by the Trinidad and Tobago government in his honor. First proposed all the way back in the mid-2000s, and finally completed in 2017, after years of delays and construction setbacks. For years, it hosted one-day internationals, T20s, and Caribbean Premier League matches, serving as the home ground for the Trinbago Knight Riders. But it had never once hosted a test match. The format Lara built his entire legend on until this July, when Cricket West Indies handed it that milestone against Pakistan. It's not something Lara owns, but it's something almost nobody else in the sport's history has ever had built around their name, while they were still alive to watch it reach a moment like that. Away from the stadium, Lara channels a lot of his public profile into the Pearl and Bunty Lara Foundation, named after his parents. His father, Bunty, died of a heart attack in 1989, and the foundation exists in memory of both parents, focused on health and social care initiatives across Trinidad and the wider Caribbean, including support for underprivileged children. There's also a cancer treatment center in Trinidad that carries his name, and a recreation ground back in Cantaro, Santa Cruz, the same village where he grew up. Whatever else is true about his finances, the through line of his post-retirement life has clearly been reinvestment back into the island that raised him. On the commercial side, Lara has built a long list of endorsement relationships over the years. He's worked with the tire manufacturer, MRF, the Trinidadian beverage company, Angostura, where he actually worked briefly in the early 1990s before his career fully took off, the telecom company B-Mobile, and Ferreira Optical. In 2021, he took on a brand ambassador role with the Indian company USHA International, extending his commercial reach well beyond the Caribbean and into one of cricket's biggest fan markets, a region where his name still carries enormous weight thanks to decades of tours, exhibition matches, and television coverage. Some reporting also points to Lara having interests in real estate and golf course design, though details on the scale of those ventures are limited publicly. So it's fair to treat that part of the picture as broad strokes rather than confirmed specifics. So, about that $60 million figure, multiple net worth tracking sites, independently of each other, have landed on a number in that same general range for 2026. Built from a combination of his career earnings as a player, decades of endorsement income, appearance fees, and the various post-retirement business relationships we've just gone through. That consistency across sources is worth something. But it's still important to say clearly, none of these figures come from Lara himself. None of them are drawn from any disclosed financial statement. And every single tracker calculating that number is working from estimates and public assumptions, not actual account access. Treat 60 million as the honest public consensus, not as a confirmed fact. His personal life has stayed relatively private compared to his public career. Lara has never married. He's been in a long-term relationship with Liesl Rovedas, a Trinidadian model and media personality, and the couple have 2 daughters together. His older daughter, Sydney, was born in 1996, and she's named after the Sydney Cricket Ground, the venue where Lara scored an early Test century that helped announce him to the wider cricket world. His younger daughter, Tyla, was born in 2010. It's a small, quiet family life for a man whose name is attached to a stadium, a hospital wing, and a charitable foundation across an entire country. Since retiring as a player, Lara hasn't stepped fully away from the game either. He's coached at the highest level of franchise cricket, including a stint as batting coach and strategic advisor for Sunrisers Hyderabad in the IPL, worked in broadcasting and commentary for major tournaments, and remained an outspoken voice on the state of West Indies cricket, publicly pushing Cricket West Indies to bring former stars like Chris Gayle, Dwayne Bravo, and Kieran Pollard back into developing the next generation. It's a lower-profile second act than some legends choose, no long administrative career, but a steady, ongoing connection to cricket that's kept him relevant to a generation of fans who never actually saw him bat. What makes Lara's story different from a lot of retired sports? Legends isn't really the size of the number attached to his name. It's the shape of what he actually did with his profile once the playing days ended. And what just happened this July makes that impossible to ignore. He has a stadium that took 20 years to reach its first test match, and he was there for it. He has a foundation actively running in memory of his parents. He has a cancer center and a recreation ground carrying his name back in the village where he grew up. And he still holds, alone, the single most exclusive achievement in the history of test batting, having broken and then reclaimed the highest individual score the format has ever seen, a feat nobody else has ever managed, and one that, statistically, may never happen again, given how the modern game is played and scored. That's the real empire here. Not a mystery number on a net worth website, but a small island nation where you genuinely cannot go far without running into something built in his name, and a stadium that just spent its first ever test match living up to it. If this story gave you a fuller picture of Brian Lara than the highlight reels usually do, let us know in the comments which cricket legend's actual life after the game you want us to cover next, and subscribe for more honest, fact-checked stories from the history of the sport.